So you've heard me talk about the Detroit Lions all week. Been talking about Lions week. I'm not excited to play the Detroit Lions, if I'm being perfectly honest with you. But what I am excited about, because as you know, typically most Fridays we try to do ranks rivals where we bring in a fan of the opposing team, and this being the Lions. You know, the most prominent Lions fan in my life is going to be here. So I'm so excited. So Juliana, let's just go ahead and start the show.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast with Adam Ray.
Trying to cut it back. Justin Fields making magic happen. There goes Fields. Touchdown.
The sickest Chicago Bears and fantasy football podcast. Sports entertainment like no other. It's gonna be sick.
Welcome to the Sick Podcast with Adam Rank. It's me, Adam Rank, and we've got a great show for you today because we have one of the brightest minds in all of professional sports joining us here this evening, this afternoon, whenever you happen to be watching the show. We thank you for doing so. So without further ado, let's bring on from the NFL Network, Cynthia Frelund, who is, I'm sorry.
I'm just reading the Montgomery Ward catalog.
There are so many. I feel bad. If you're not an avid viewer of the NFL Network, you don't get why we're so obsessed with the Montgomery Ward mailing list, but we certainly are. And I feel bad. Some of our co-hosts come on too, especially if it's on a Tuesday show, and they're like, why? It's like they're watching the sequel of a movie that they didn't see. And so there's a lot of inside jokes, but how are you doing this morning?
I'm doing great. It feels like it's like week 11 is kind of like when it starts to stop feeling like Groundhog Day, because you're like, oh, next week it's going to be a little bit more interesting, with Thanksgiving. So I don't know. I feel like we're out of the Groundhog Day and we're into the pre-playoffs, and we're going to always be like, who should be the MVP? I know you were writing that article and you had some really good picks that weren't just the random run of the mill.
Can we talk? Let's talk about this for a moment, because I was it was for an appearance on Rogers in Canada. We were doing this. We were trying to figure out some not so chalky MVP picks. And this was a collective effort. And so on the Wednesday show on Take It to the Rank, I brought this up with Carmen Vitale, who's a friend of yours. She covers the NFC North for the foxsports.com, obviously. She even wrote an article about how Amon-Ra St. Brown needs to be in this conversation with the elite wide receivers. And I'm like, hey, I go, how about putting him in the MVP conversation? She thought we were fools. She laughed at us.
It's not a homer pick. It's who's valuable. Like, if you're going to say last year that Justin Jefferson would be in the conversation, I don't understand why this season, especially with the Lions contending to win the North for the first time since my lifetime, then it's at least worth the conversation, right? I'm not suggesting that he should win it.
No.
And typically it's just at least worth the exercise and being like, he's adding so much value to this team and the opportunities that the team gets. So I mean, it's just no different to me. I'm like, how is it that much different from Justin Jefferson last season, which was like, oh yeah, that one's a no-brainer. You're like, well, how is this not a no-brainer?
This one seems a little bit more obvious or easier to take, because I know that everybody loves Justin Jefferson and the Vikings are fine, but the Vikings though are not beloved like the Detroit Lions are right now. And this started last season when they appeared on Hard Knocks. Dan Campbell, amazing personality, a lot of cool guys. Jared Goff's delightful. A lot of the Lions, great people. Aiden Hutchinson, it's an easy team to root for. And so now the momentum is carried into this year. And then you get to it. It's like, well, then why isn't Amon-Ra St. Brown in this conversation? I even put it to Carmen. I said, listen, obviously he's not going to win it. But, and I think it's similar to when you have a coach who's interviewing for head coaching positions. Even if you don't get the job, you're still in those conversations and it raises you. So if you want Amon-Ra St. Brown to be in this elite conversation, then it's not outlandish to say he should be in the MVP race.
I think sometimes people have a hard time elevating an MVP, at least that's not a non-quarterback MVP that wasn't a first-round draft pick, right? Like, we talk about Christian McCaffrey a lot, and people were like, oh, is he going to be the first? Like, how high is he going to be drafted? Right. Like,
Yeah.
then we talk about Justin Jefferson and people were like, wow, like how high could he be? It's like, and maybe that's part of it, but I just think that it doesn't matter. Like once you're drafted, you're there. It's your performance on the field that matters. And if it's logical to even put CJ Stroud, which I actually think it is, in the conversation as a rookie, it is certainly logical to put Amon. Like it's just like it's an exercise. It's not like it's not. I'm not a voter. I'd like to be a voter, but
I don't think we're allowed to because we're NFL media. But who are they? So the guys we came up with were Amon-Ra St. Brown, AJ Brown, maybe. AJ Brown might be too chalky, but Myles Garrett, there was one, maybe it was, no, it wasn't, no, CJ Stroud. So yeah, so it makes perfect sense when you talk about these guys. And it's nice to give somebody outside of the quarterbacks. I mean, Patrick Mahomes, it's so funny, like even talking about like fantasy wise, Patrick Mahomes not having his best year fantasy wise, but is still probably going to win the MVP. Why not take a moment? Like we get it. Like we don't need to talk about Patrick Mahomes being great. Once again, Amon-Ra St. Brown.
We've got a lot of years literally to talk about how great Patrick Mahomes is because he's probably the best we'll see in our lifetime. Like Tom, I think is wonderful, but I actually think Patrick will be better than Tom. Like it's the LeBron MJ conversation, but it's reversed for me because I think MJ is always better than anyways, doesn't matter. But long story short, it's like, that's the conversation. We'll have that for years and years and years in a specific season with this specific set of results. And I think that's why you want to talk about some different names. Plus we go crazy talking about the same people all the time.
No, for sure. I know this is, we're talking Lions Bears, but of course, when you bring up Patrick Mahomes, would you rather have in their prime Patrick Mahomes or Peyton Manning?
Always Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, 100%.
Always. Every time.
Not even.
I mean, I don't look, I also think like the way Patrick plays is there's some more versatile type of like Peyton Manning needed the things around him to make more sense. Patrick didn't need as many things to make sense. His rushing and scrambling ability, that just wasn't what Peyton did, right? Yeah. Like, it's like that means you have to have the right O-line, you have to have Reggie Wayne catching the ball, you have to have some other things there, some great running backs to like make sense. Whereas like Patrick Mahomes, like they don't really have a great deep threat right now, right? They've got Travis Kelce, we got noted, and then the run game hasn't been really working. And so Patrick's been able to overcome all of that stuff. I don't know if that would be the same thing for Peyton Manning.
No, listen, Patrick Mahomes to me, and I think that it's going to be at some point the conversation of Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes. But I think for right now that Patrick Mahomes easily at least at bare minimum, the number 2 NFL quarterback of all time.
I would even argue that TV wise, I prefer Eli. I think Eli is so much more entertaining. I think he's so funny.
That is one of the things that I noticed during his playing days. I got an opportunity to interview Eli Manning down at the Dallas Super Bowl. And this was coming off a stretch where I was defending San Diego Charger fans, be like, forget Eli for not going to the San Diego Chargers. I actually had Charger season tickets at the time living in Southern California. They were cheap. I mean, like, I kind of get the Manning's point now because like you used to be able to go get season tickets for the Chargers for like $200. The Cardinals were like, I had season tickets to the Cardinals because they were $100. And I know that was 6 hours away, but you're like, whatever, we're driving to NFL games. We're getting season tickets for $100. I was always like very defensive.
Gas like 80 cents back then?
Oh yeah. You could get that. You could get the Phoenix on a full tank and it would cost you $10 to fill up. And it was back. Listen, it was back. It was so long ago. People know the affection that I have for Pat Tillman. Pat Tillman was playing for the Sun Devils. He wasn't even a Cardinal yet. He was a Sun Devil. Wait, it's very close. It is right there around 90. I know he was a freshman on the Rose Bowl team. Very close. If Pat Tillman wasn't still he was in Tempe. If he wasn't with the Sun Devils, he was in his first year with the Cardinals, but it was around that era.
Love it.
So it was amazing. But at the same time, so I got an opportunity to meet Eli Manning and I thought that he was a delight. I'm like, oh, this guy's actually pretty cool. And then the cameras were off and then he was joking around with me. And I'm like, dude, if you knew the stuff that I talked, like this was before social media was really prevalent. So he had no idea who I was. And I'm like, oh, if you knew the stuff that I used to say about you, but hey, you're a fun guy. And I think his personality kind of lends itself better because Peyton's good, but Peyton's now getting into the category of trying too hard, where I think for Eli, it's very natural. And so
Yeah.
it's starting to shine through. But listen, enough about that.
You ready for this? Wait,
Yeah.
I'm gonna segue you. You ready?
Yeah, please.
I met Eli and his wife several times when he was playing on the Giants with my friend Matthias Kiwanuka, who was roommates with Ryan Poles.
Oh, wow.
Oh, look at that segue. We're such pros.
Coming around to Ryan Poles. Now when
you were telling him what to do.
Listen, does Ryan Poles, you'll be able, now you went to college with Ryan Poles. He does not care for me.
I'm sure he does. He's just like that. He's just very serious. Like he's serious. There's a lot going on there, you know?
He did not, but like he did not blow me off. Like I stopped I stopped myself from like, I should stop talking about this. He's like, no, say what you got to say. I'm like, okay, let's throw it deep. What I wish I had said is followed it up and like, okay, after we throw it deep, first of all, tell the referee not to blow the whistle. Number 2, don't run a jet sweep right at Khalil Mack. Get that play out of our playbook unless it goes to Tyler Scott, because I have more trust in him than anybody. Don't run the jet sweep and lose 13 yards. Run the ball. Take the yardage. You got them on their heels. Whatever. That's what I should. That's the conversation I should have had. So next time I run into your friend, next time. Ryan Poles knows me as the bald guy from Cynthia's show. But they know that I'm a Bears fan because
no, they know you're an avid Bears fan. They appreciate it. Like people like I think he's just a little preoccupied with some other things. That
100%. The game was very close to start. I wasn't going to say anything to him. And I was sitting there with my orange shirt, not the Meatball Island shirt, but an orange shirt underneath a blue coat.
Honestly, I like this meatball. Are you going to wear this on Fantasy Live today?
I can.
Yeah, I think you should.
All right, I'll wear it. I've worn it on a Friday, and then the guy who gave it to me didn't even see it. I'm not even going to say his name because he hurt me so. But in any event, okay, fine. I'll wear the Meatball Island shirt. It actually lends itself to the character. Oh God. Yeah. So we're recording this on Thursday. Everybody, please ignore the because they're gonna be like, wait a minute, Rank wore that shirt on Thursday. Like 3 people would know that, and I just spilled the beans. I don't care. I pull it back. Listen,
we have to do Thursday because on Friday you ditched me.
I'm not on. No, you ditched me. You're not on Fantasy Live.
No, I'm not on. You ditched me. You're like, I don't want her on the show. You're like, get her off the show.
That's not even
Friday show.
That is not the conversation that I have. I've brought this up because like every Friday, we have a different cast come in. And so I do this. I say the same thing. We do. We have 2 other people come in. And so
I thought you meant like a different cast each Friday, like each Friday.
Oh, no. It's 2 different. It's kind of like if you were watching the Premier League and you're like, hey, Saka, I know we're playing Man City today, but we're gonna put you on loan to Everton. Like, what are you doing?
Wait, does
like,
the podcast know about the trophy?
Oh yeah, they know about the trophy.
Okay.
Listen, Tyler Scott comes on. We do the Tyler Scott show. I always give him my coaching advice because as an AYSO coach, now it's
as a trophy-winning, league-winning, non-goal allowing playoff coach. Not just any old AYSO coach. Come on, anyone can be an AYSO coach. Not everyone can earn that trophy.
I will tell you that all the number 1 seeds in section 143, boys and girls, only one number 1 seed won their postseason tournament. Just saying, it's not always easy being the number 1 seed. We know this from any sport that you might watch. Mm-hmm. Being the number 1 seed is not always an advantage. It is when you don't allow a goal. I got some stories I'm going to tell you some stories today too, because I'm heated about this all-star situation. My girls made it to all-stars, but like the things I had to go through. But anyway, I know people want to know about the Lions and everything like that. We've talked about the Lions at great length, and I love that they're getting their run and respect. And I know like there's something different about the Lions, and not to be disrespectful. Like I legitimately don't like the Packers, and I love that they're failing. I love Aaron Nagler. I love all our friends who come on. Any Packers fan who's on this show is a good person, but for the rest of them, I'm glad you're losing. I don't like that team. I don't like the Lions as a joke, but I'm very happy for Detroit. I'm very happy for the fans, especially. What's it been like? It built on to last season. What has it been like this year? Like being celebrated. And believe me, if you keep doing this too much, it'll turn. But what is it like right now being the team that everybody's just kind of fun and like rooting for?
Honestly, I get a little like not like a little choked up, because it's so special. You think about, like, I'm sure everyone here can relate to this. Like, you grow up and you go to games with your mom or your dad or your family or grandpa or someone else, and you share the sport with someone, and you grow up watching mediocrity. Like, even when it was Barry Sanders, it was still pretty mediocre, like, and my dad used to have to bribe me with a goldfish after games, like driving home. There's a, Meyer, you guys have Meyer in the Chicago area as well. They have goldfish at our Meyer. And my dad was like, I'll buy you a goldfish if you go to the game with me. I'm like, I really want this goldfish, so I guess I'll go to the game, like,
yeah.
And the Silver Dome, it was awful, like the whole thing. So it just feels really special, like, to be able to watch with my dad. Like, obviously, next week, not that the Bears game isn't very special, but Thanksgiving, as a Lions fan, like, we usually, it's not usually a pretty picture. There was like one against the Eagles one time that was pretty nice. But apart from that, then, it's like, it's always just like, oh God, like, let's get it over with so we can, like, eat. But it's just special. And, like, my dad will be here, and, it just feels different. And to hear, I do a radio spot in Lansing, where I'm from, and, people like were like driving down to Detroit, like standing in line for hours just on the potential to be able to buy a playoff ticket should they be hosting a game. Like, and that was 3 weeks ago. Like, it's like, it's just nice. Michigan has had some hard things happen to it over the past, since the 2008 situation with the economy. So it's just nice to have something that's like hopeful, so it's sweet. I want to be there. I wanted to be there at that Monday game.
Oh, I know you were. It was unfortunate that you didn't,
I know,
get an opportunity to go there. I don't know why TV producers don't look at this more often. Now, for me, it's very difficult because Kyle Brandt's on our network. So I'm never the number one Chicago
he's
person.
like sometimes a Bills fan.
Listen, don't bring this up to Draft Dr. Phil and the smartest man in the room, Shane. These guys get very upset about this part, but like there's an obvious depth chart at our network. And when it comes to Chicago people, I might not even be number 2, but to some people, I don't. Oh, I guess Kay's gone now. So,
Kyle Brandt's just ahead of all of. Like, let's be clear, he's on Wheel of Fortune. He gets.
By the way, how good was he on Wheel? That was scary.
I haven't seen it yet. It's on my DVR. I was doing some due diligence last night. I'll tell you about it.
I'm spoiling. I spoiled it a little bit. I had to be on with him today, and I'm like, oh my god. So by the way, I love Kyle. Is a very, like, people ask me all the time what Kyle is like. He's a great guy. I met him years ago when he was on the Jim Rome show. And I ran into him because Jay Stu and I went to school together. So I met him and I was like, hey, I'm a big fan of The Real World. So I'm a huge fan. Like, so
Ryan
Ryan. Yeah. It's not Ryan. It's Ryan Sandberg. He's that guy. So I've always
funny.
I've always been a huge fan, so I'm always a big fan of his.
No, but we gotta mess with each other a little bit.
We're joking, yeah. So, but we can also understand that Kyle runs the network. Like, listen, I know there's an alpha dog.
Kyle Brandt, very small than the rest of us way down here.
There's been an alpha dog who's been running around who for 20. How long has the NFL network been on? 20 years. Like, oh, there's a new sheriff in town in a way. So, like, I'm always the number 2. So I know that if there's something momentous, if the Bears went to the Super Bowl, I know that I'm not like, hey, Rank, let's get you out there. They're like, nope, what's Kyle doing? But for you're the Detroit person. There's a Monday night game. Like, what better possibility than sending Cynthia? And don't give me the budgets are little. The budgets? How many people do you send to Germany and England? Don't tell me about budgets. I will pay for Cynthia to fly Spirit Airlines to get out to that game.
Just let me pay for one day.
Have her, like, there would be nothing better than having you in Detroit. I mean, I would miss you. I love having you on the show.
Yeah, no, I love doing shows with you, but
Mondays and Thursdays are the best shows of the week. Agreed. Tuesdays are good. Tuesdays are good too. But they jam 4 of us in there. It's like if Blink 182 brought out Matt Skiba. Like, it's okay. We love them.
Trail Bra on Tuesday, which
we love them
really hard.
But we don't. And by the way, the producer, I swear to God, our Tuesday producer, why is Cynthia not sitting next to me for Chill Bra? Like, next week, run around.
I will. I thought about it this week. I was like, when would the camera not be,
who cares? Even if you walked behind me, it's Chill Bra. It's no big deal. And by the way, if people were coming in looking for an in-depth preview of the Lions and Bears, check out some other shows. We're having fun. This is two friends getting together. And I think these always end up being our most popular shows. And I think like sometimes, but it's good to get to know. Listen, the Lions are a very good team. Carmen and I talked about it. Great lines.
Yep.
Amon-Ra St. Brown, MVP. Jahmyr Gibbs is great. Covered. Okay. But
David Montgomery good in pass pro, but you guys knew that already because
we knew that. I know. How bad? Oh, God, I'm worried. So this is the one thing that I love about the Lions, and I brought this up on Wednesday's show, but I'll bring it up against here. One of the things I love about Dan Campbell is we saw last week, Jahmyr Gibbs goes out of bounds at the 2. Every NFL head coach outside of Kyle Shanahan, I might throw Mike McDaniel in this mix, would have pulled Jahmyr Gibbs off the field and found a rando tight end or an offensive lineman to go catch that touchdown. But Dan Campbell goes out.
Someone named Brock? Anyone? Someone named Brock.
Well, that was a different thing, but it wasn't like it was Jahmyr Gibbs' touchdown. That was clearly Jahmyr Gibbs' touchdown.
Yes.
He gave it to him, which is great. And it's great if you started him in fantasy and all that stuff. Beautiful. You love to see coaches do that. The only reason I bring this up is that it literally worries me that Dan Campbell, as well as anybody, is going to be like David Montgomery is scoring 5 touchdowns against the Bears. What say you?
I wouldn't be surprised if there were a few extra handoffs to Montgomery in the red area, just to, even if in that case, while that Jahmyr Gibbs touchdown went to Jahmyr Gibbs, I would imagine Jahmyr would be like, Mont, get in here.
Even that's what I said. I said even Jahmyr Gibbs would be like, nah, I can, like NFL players.
It's yours, bro.
Offensive players are selfish by nature, but I think everybody's going to be fine if David Montgomery is sitting there running up his 4th touchdown. Right. And Dan Campbell is going to give it to it. And it would be a lot like last week with Kyle Shanahan trying to get I remember looking up at that 49ers game and being why the F is Christian McCaffrey? Oh, he's still going for the record. I'm like, God bless Kyle Shanahan. In a world full of Arthur Smiths, be a Kyle Shanahan. Dan Campbell's for sure trying to give David Montgomery. What is Ernie Nevers' record? 6 touchdowns. Ernie Nevers, who is former Chicago guy. Ernie Nevers, Chicago Cardinals, if I have that correct. And I'm sure Patrick Pusey is in the comments right now going, actually, he played for the Canton Marauders. Whatever. No, Canton Bulldogs. Sorry, Pottsmith Maroons.
Will either of the DePaulos be watching this?
No. They don't. They only watch broadcast. Listen, they're old people. They don't watch YouTube. Their kids might. Dean DePaulo might be watching it. Adam McDonald. Oh, Adam or Tate McDonald for sure are watching the show. So tell them hello.
Smiling Jenny.
You know what? She's watching for sure. Although the McDonald kids don't root for the Bears. They root for the Raiders. Their dad's a huge Raiders guy.
Oh, okay.
So so Kara didn't quite win that one, but in any event, that's their sister DePaulo. But I feel like Ernie Nevers has the NFL's all-time record with 6 touchdowns in a game, but he also kicked 4 extra points. I think we'll see David Montgomery do an extra point try. Dude, go for it. What is it? But let me ask you, the Bears have been playing pretty well recently, and I think especially defensively. Is there a chance? I know the Bears won't stop them. They're not going to shut out the Lions. They're not going to probably hold them below 20. Is the Bears defense the way they've played in recent weeks? Can they be a mere speed bump for them?
The Bears defense is getting better. I mean, a lot of people are like, well, the Montez way you signed, they've got a great deal on that. And I also think that, health really matters. So, you're starting to see the secondary be healthier. That's always a problem. Obviously, targeting the, if you're looking at the linebacker level, you could probably get a little, it's an area where you maybe have some.
TJ Edwards is playing better. I think Tremaine Edmonds has been battling some injuries, which has really hampered him this season.
Exactly. It's hard injuries, just, injuries are going to be difficult. So it's not that the thing is people forget that the difference between even defense 1 and defense 32 isn't that big, right? A lot of it comes down to it's not like one's just this brick wall and the other one's a sieve. There's a lot of things in between. Scheme matters a ton. The opportunity, and also once how tired a team gets, if you're on the field the whole freaking time, your 4th quarter stats are garbage anyways, because you've played 20 more snaps than the other people who are the other games that are going on in the 4th quarter because your offense isn't helping you. So they both need to work together. And I do think Justin Fields being back will help the defense, because then you'll get a few extra, breaths on the side of on the sideline.
You mentioned that the Montez Sweat deal was a good deal for the Bears.
Yes.
Can you kind of expand on that? Because I know initially when the trade was made, everybody's like, what a dumb deal. This guy's going to be a free agent. You could have gotten him for free. And then they sign him.
For
They're like,
free?
well,
What are you talking about?
now you paid too much money. Like, but you said it was a good deal. Can you just expand on that just for a moment?
Life is about opportunity costs.
Oh no, she froze.
Away from, are you there? Oh,
hold on. Yeah, you're sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. The Bears aren't one Montez Sweat away from the Super Bowl. Like, I'm not being mean. I don't think I'm saying anything that's right. So you get the pick from Carolina. Good. We're rooting against Carolina all the time, but you also get your own pick. And sure, it would be nice to be like, okay, well, I'll just go get one pass rusher in the draft. Well, hello, no team with just one pass rusher, see Crosby, Max. Like, that is not going to be enough. So the point is secure the assets that you know that are known quantities for yourself. Make sure they fit in your surroundings. The deal wasn't an overpay. All agents report numbers like, oh, I got him $10 bajillion. Turns out the way that it actually works is team favorable because there's voidable years. There's the way that the NFL is structured is much like our taxes. There's a lot of tricks you can do. And the smart teams, they get ahead of those tricks so that they know exactly how much they can pay for key positions, right? You need an offensive line. You need help at offensive line. You need help along the defensive front. Now you've created an opportunity for yourself where you don't have to be beholden to one specific position at any of your draft pick. So not only can you take the best available player, but you can manipulate the board so then you can get the biggest haul possible of the players that make sense for your system. You're never going to not need a premier pass rusher. Never. You can have 4 of them, and then you can go get Chase Young. So point being, even when the Niners, who are really didn't need any help up front, they got Javon Hargrave in free agency. You know how much they paid for him? Way too much, in my opinion. I mean, even though he's very, very good, but that was a lot of money to pay. And then now you're doubling down with Chase Young, who they didn't do his 5th year extension, so you're going to have to pay him this year if you want to keep him. Remember, you're never going to get enough of these guys. So you have your known quantity. It is a team. It is structured in a way that helps the team the most. And now you have optionality going forward.
No, I love everything about that. And that's going to be one of the clips that we break off and we put out there. And I go, in your face, people. Because you say it better than me.
Face.
You're much more eloquent than me and you're much smarter than me. So I always appreciate, I just sound like, again, meatball. Like, yeah, of course it's a good deal. But you put it in a way that is very wise.
No, now you can get anyone you want, right? Like, and if you negotiate right now, we don't know the terms of the, which counts again. It's not released. No one has it. Unless you are an NFL agent listening to this, there's no way you can see that. So the point is I know that they structure in a way that helps the team to get as good as possible in the near future. They're not trying to postpone this forever.
No, I love it. And I thought it was a great deal when it was made, and I was in favor of it. And of course, I'm a little biased. I enjoy Ryan Poles. I think he's doing a great job. I think he's doing a really good job. I mean, when you start looking at this team, you talked about the offensive line, Braxton Jones looks very good. Nate Davis, who's going to return this week, looks very good. Darnell Wright looks like a player. They might, and Tevin Jenkins, who they didn't draft, but ended up with, is okay, now go out there and get a premier center. But even though Lucas Patrick's been playing very well, the offensive line's starting to come along. But I did want to ask you, I don't know what time you got to go to makeup, so I will try not to hold you up too long. But I do want to ask you about Justin Fields because it's very polarizing. But I think that what we can agree on is that these next 7 games are going to determine whether he is a Chicago Bear next year or not. What do you think about Justin Fields? Do you think he's going to be able to prove it? What is your read on the whole situation?
So let's take a look really quick at CJ Stroud, because they both come from the same system, being Ohio State. They're very different styles of quarterbacks. However, they're both really great talents. What's the difference between what we saw from CJ Stroud, what we're seeing from CJ Stroud, and what we're seeing from Justin Fields? One, they brought in a guy named Gerard Johnson. Gerard Johnson, he's big with Elite 11, which is this quarterback cultivation system, farm system of quarterbacks, basically. And then he was in Minnesota. He's worked with a bunch of a quarterback himself. They brought in an offensive coordinator and an offensive assistant. Mark Brunell's there. They have so many people there to help cultivate this. They made a huge investment capital. They haven't spent yet. They did draft capital on both him and Will Anderson, right? So, you're sitting here being we made this massive investment. It's going to mess with our draft going forward. So we are going to put all our chips in and figure out how to make this person work. Well, we're starting to see early returns. I mean, CJ Stroud's doing more advanced things in terms of what we expect from rookies, deep passing, outside the numbers passing, things that are not like rookie stuff, right? Well, now let's look at what happened with Justin Fields. Did he have that type of cultivation? I'm going to say no. Was he given the opportunity to perform, like, even with not the best O-line, because was under a lot of pressure. It's a fact, right? Was he given the best tools, execution? Was he given an opportunity to succeed? And then, by the way, then let's switch the coaching staff. Then let's mess with this. Then, like, whatever happened with your defensive coordinator, like, it just seems like there's a lot of chaos. Yeah. And you can imagine, as a coach, if you got a lot of chaos, the kid's not going to perform as well as if you get a nice, stable, like, here's the game plan. Let's, like, execute all of our passes. And so who's getting the assist, right? You don't want the dad to incentivize just goals. You want the dad to incentivize assists too. That's your.
Oh my God, okay. Thank you.
Anyways, but the point is you want to figure out the system that best allows this person to flourish. And I don't think Justin Fields was given that opportunity, at least yet.
Yeah, and and that's a lot of the things. I know everybody comes down on Luke Getsy, and okay, yeah, he's having his problems here and there, but at the same time, like you said, if we had more people there, I know sometimes you can have too many coaches and you have too many voices in his ears, and you kind of want a singular focus. But if this was a veteran play caller, and I don't want to say Norv Turner but like somebody who was like well regarded as a offensive coordinator back in the day, like fine. But I would like to see a little bit more support. And, we keep talking about how Matt Eberflus could be blown out by the end of the season, maybe Luke Getsy, but this is the kind of stuff too that makes you think like, maybe they will, like, if Justin Fields goes out and prove himself, well, then why not give Eberflus, like, why not keep some continuity? Because I think Eberflus is kind of playing for his job too. So it's like, and this is a good way to start it.
I'm not suggesting that it should be on Eberflus. Like, I'm not.
No. I know.
I'm just saying that the whole structure is important. Like, even if you bring in, I don't know, maybe some leftovers from the Ravens who, when Todd Monken came in, like someone who understands the skill set of a guy who's at least his default setting is to run when there doesn't seem to be anyone open, right? Like, bring in something like this thing's like more like this thing, right? Like you can't treat everyone the same. Some of us are visual learners. Some of us are auditory learners. Like, you can't tell a visual learner things only in their ear. They just don't get it, right? Like, so you have to like get to know what's going to make your asset work the best and what they really need, because Justin Fields has a lot of talent. Like, this is not someone who is not the skills, the clay is there, just needs to be molded.
Yeah. I'm very excited, and I think that this is a perfect opportunity for the Bears. One of the things that they've been unable to do in the Matt Eberflus era is string together 2 wins, and it's a very tough ask going up against one of the toughest teams in the NFC. How good are the? Well, this will be the last one. Do you have to go? Am I holding you?
Yeah, like a minute. It's fine. We're good.
Okay.
We're good.
The Lions. I know that everybody just kind of assumes Eagles, 49ers, they're the main event guys. The Lions, probably the number 3, but like, are they in the main event class, or are they the best of the mid card?
I can't believe I'm saying this, especially after that Ravens game. But if you go back and watch the Ravens game, that one was more about a lack of being able to adapt, because the Ravens' first 4 drives were poetic. Like, they were amazing, right? They were very well executed, very well planned, and they got 4 touchdowns. It's really hard for even the best teams to come back from that, right? And if you're going to put the Cowboys in any sort of are they legit conversation, then you absolutely have to do the same thing about the Lions, because they got blown out by the 49ers, but maybe they're better. Who knows, right? Yeah. So I would think, I'm not going to say they're as good as the 49ers or the Eagles, but like, they're not, like, it's like these 2 are 1 and like Lions are like 1A. Like, they're right below. And if you were to have the Lions play the Eagles 3 times, I mean, the Lions would at least win 1, right? Like, it would be, it's close. It's not, I mean, because the Eagles defense has been a little sus. So that's my reason for saying that. But it's like, that's where I almost don't know how to say this, because for my whole life it's been like Lions lie downs, ha ha ha, kitties, meow meow, right? Like, no, but they're
all these indoor cats. How do we go so long before dropping an indoor cat?
What's that?
I'm surprised we went this long without dropping an indoor cat. By the way,
Gordy has been he the paw that I wore for my indoor cat Halloween costume.
Yes,
he's obsessed with it. He has.
Wait, you were wearing paws?
no, that was just my hand. And now my dog's obsessed with my hand and he hides it. So like the paw from that costume, he went in and stole it from where the box it was in. And now he will not give it back. Like I've never seen him be possessive about anything in my life. Like he's just like a sweet dog, but like I'm like, I'm taking your kitty pot. He's like, it's crazy.
I love it. Well, listen, I love that you spend some time with us here today. We're going to be doing this two more weeks. Can you come back in 2 weeks?
Yeah, of course.
Can we do this again? And again, I'm sure we lost all the football nicks. We're like, I want the X's. Listen, we're going to sit here and we're going to do what we do on the show. We're going to have a good time. We're going to talk. We talked football. It was just a good
X's and O's.
Listen.
All I have to do is say one word before we just one. I'm really proud of one particular. Can you guess which Lions like my favorite defensive player?
Who is it?
I'm actually really impressed. I think Cam Sutton is not being talked about enough as being one of the best free agent acquisitions from the entire offseason. I mean, sure, he wasn't like big name splashy dude, but Lions secondary was a problem last year, and Cam Sutton's even good versus the run.
Yeah, I mean, like that's the one thing that you really appreciate about the Lions is how they've built it. We rarely see these teams nowadays. It feels like you get these teams that flash. They flash for a year, and then they regress.
Mm-hmm.
The Lions have been a slow build, kind of like you would watch in the 90s, where you'd watch these teams like progressively get better and like, oh my God, now all of a sudden the Dallas Cowboys are the best team in the NFL. Like we see that with the Lions. And, you know, going back to the point about where they rank in the NFC, to me, it's like the 49ers are Triple H, the Eagles are The Rock, and the Lions are Chris Jericho. And it's a triple threat. Well, remember in that main event, Chris Jericho was the one who walked out with both titles. So I don't
think I'd be able, like, if for some reason there was a game that Game Day Morning was covering that took place in a place in the desert, I wouldn't think I'd be able to speak. I think I'd just be all tears. I never thought in my whole life I would see. Just saying.
That's okay. They would have number one Lions fan Kyle Brandt speak for you, so you'd be okay. Now we love Kyle. He's a huge fan of his. All right, I'm going to leave it on that. We'll see you this afternoon. Right. For the rest of you, we'll see you on NFL Fantasy Live. Game Day View is the show that she's on Friday afternoons and through the weekend on NFL Network. Be sure to check that out. Check her out on NFL.com. All of her previews and her stuff on NFL Plus. Appreciate it. Thank you so much. You know, I'm just going to close the show here. I'm not even going to do an ending soliloquy. So, Juliana, go ahead and play us out and bear down.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast with Adam Rank on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts. Brought to you by Underdog Fantasy.